Fashion is a part of all of our lives, whether you wear trendy clothes from fast fashion brands or traditional prints from handlooms. Hello and welcome, I'm Sadhika Tiwari and you're watching Eco India. A simple Google search would tell you that the fashion industry is responsible for 10% of the total global carbon emissions every year. And we all contribute to this by buying what the fashion industry churns out. So what can we do about it? We need to find alternatives, whether it is in how and what we consume or the materials that our clothes are made of. Invasive species of plants across the globe like alligator weed, fanwort, water thymes wreak havoc on native species of flora and fauna. And these need to be reined in because just simply pulling them out does not do the trick. But when put to the right use, they can help bring in money. We head to the state of West Bengal where an aquatic plant dubbed the Terror of Bengal is being put to great use and it's finding a new life in fashion.
A job that never seems to end. Shomarendranath is harvesting water hyacinths. He has to remove them from the pond as they have become a nuisance here in West Bengal. The 70-year-old used to work in construction, but he earns more doing this, and it's less strenuous, especially when the weather is good like today.
I have been working here for 6 to 7 years now. The job is harder to do during the monsoon than in winter.
Water hyacinths are highly invasive plants, not just in India, but worldwide. Within just a few days, they can double their biomass and quickly take over entire ponds and even huge lakes, depriving all aquatic life of sunlight and oxygen. India has long struggled with the problem.
So now it has spread to more than 5 lakh hectares all around the country. Now the problem it possesses is it came without natural enemies, so it grows profusely, it liked our weather.
The rapid spread of these floating plants has serious consequences for a region's biodiversity, and the economy is now also suffering from the water hyacinth plague across almost all sectors.
Today it causes global loss in millions of dollars annually to hydroelectricity generation, irrigation schemes, fisheries, water transport, and so many other water-related activities.
There are different theories as to how the water hyacinth found its way to India. One is that the plant was brought here in 1889 for the development of the Royal Botanical Gardens in Calcutta.
But then there are other literatures which says that it was introduced much before that. When Lord Warren Hastings became the first Governor General of India, his wife, Lady Hastings, she was profusely interested in plants. So it is also said that she brought it into India.
Gaurav Anand wants to do something about the water hyacinths, while also finding a use for them. 2 years ago, the engineer gave up his permanent job to found the non-profit Swachhata Pukare Foundation. Using traditional crafts and with the help of the people in the affected villages, he wants to turn the plants into a source of income.
तो हम लोगों ने वेस्ट बंगाल में चूँकि वी वर ऑलरेडी वर्किंग विथ आवर टीम एंड द टीम फ्रॉम मछलंदपुर एंड बंदगांव वाज पार्ट ऑफ आवर एक्टिविटीज सिंस बिगनिंग. तो हम लोगों ने देखा कि वी आर ऑलरेडी मेकिंग प्रोडक्ट्स लाइक लैम्प शेड्स, देन नोटबुक्स, एवरीथिंग सिंस लास्ट 5 years. Why not do some research here and make something else?
Anand's foundation has already made several products from water hyacinths after discovering by chance just how much cellulose is in the plants.
While cleaning the water hyacinth from the river, what we found, I'll just show you the fiber of it. After drying, so water hyacinth you would have seen, and after drying the water hyacinth, it becomes like this. And when we cleaned the water hyacinth at the river, and suppose we forgot to remove from there, the next week we used to go, we used to find like this. Then we saw that there is something like fiber item into it. Why not to explore that?
Anand's idea was to mix the fibers from the plants with cotton to weave fabric for saris. He hopes this will not only solve the problem of the water hyacinth plague, but also save cotton. After all, it takes up to 20,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of cotton for a sari. Right now, the fabric is just 15% water hyacinth fiber, but the aim is to increase this.
Very soon, when we will have mechanical extraction of water hyacinth from the water bodies, we can go with more ratio of this water hyacinth in that. Like we can increase it up to 30 to 40% of the mix in fusion.
We are in Shantipur, around 80 kilometers from Calcutta. It used to be a hub for handloom weaving, but the number of weavers has dwindled.
We are making this craft generation by generation. My father used to do it. Back then we did not make saris. Then our home was in Midnapur and we used to make gamcha, a cotton towel and lungi. That's garment worn by men.
Today, the weavers are using water hyacinth and cotton fibers to make sari fabric. Thanks to the orders from Anand's foundation, another 100 weavers now have an income for themselves and their families. In this way, an ancient craft is being preserved.
We don't want them to make handloom saris and go to Bada Bazaar and any places and sell it. We want them to make, put their brains just on making saris. We will do some designing part in that and we will market it for them, and whatever values we get, the more than 80% will go to them.
In a nearby village, women are doing the delicate work of turning paper made from water hyacinths into pictures and cards. It's become an important extra source of income for the women who otherwise work in agriculture.
There are a lot of improvements. We can now support our children's education, build our homes, invest in farming, support our families financially, and so on.
Online, you can now find a growing number of products made from water hyacinths, including furniture and a variety of baskets and bags. Anand hopes to soon be able to machine harvest water hyacinths, greatly increasing the amount of fabric and paper he can produce.
This is really an appreciable initiative. But again, I would prefer it being controlled compared to being utilized in any way. Because once you have developed a technology, you will start growing this plant. And what we are looking into is it needs to be eradicated.
The top priority remains ridding waterways of the pesky water hyacinth plague, but finding uses for this invasive plant is a welcome side benefit.
When you're out shopping, do you ever see the labels on your potential purchases to see what they're made of? What would you like your clothes to be made of? Cotton, linen, silk? But often they're made of fossil fuels. Surprisingly, that isn't always bad for the environment, as we discovered in Tamil Nadu.
This machine is blending polyester and cotton threads to form fabric. But these polyester threads aren't made directly from petroleum. It's sourced from recycled PET bottles.
PET bottle is an engineering plastics, okay? Highly viscoelastic in the sense when you stretch it, I get a fiber. PET bottles are there plenty, so why not I make a fiber out of PET bottles?
India alone consumes 1.4 million tons of PET plastic every year. Along with it comes a responsibility to handle that plastic waste in an efficient manner. Srirenga Polymers, located at Karur in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, converts PET bottles to apparel. It all starts with rag pickers who collect the bottles and give them to an agent. The agent converts these bottles into stacked compressed plastics which arrive at this crushing facility. Every month, they crush 800 tons of PET plastic. These PET bottles go through various stages of sorting where PET bottles are separated from bottle caps, paper and other materials. These are then shredded to obtain these tiny plastic pieces called recycled PET flakes. These flakes are washed with caustic soda, rinsed and dried to remove dirt, silt, and other materials. Nearly 98% of all water used in this process is purified, recycled, and reused. The next step is to melt these hot washed flakes and convert them to polyester fibers according to customer requirements.
Production of polyester fiber is done by a technology called dope dye technology. The advantage is that we do not use a single drop of water in coloring the polyester fiber.
To dye 1 kilo of fabric, you need 4 or 5 times the amount of water. That will pollute our water, land, everything. Whereas in DOP dye technology, we integrate the color while melting the plastic. So when the polymer itself is colored, you do not need further dyeing.
These fibers are used in the manufacture of automobiles, home furnishing, and apparels.
In dispersed dye, the coating on top will fade away with 2 or 3 washes, whereas this material will not fade as the color is present in the core.
Finally, the polyester fiber is mixed with other materials like cotton to form fabrics, which are then tailored to make various apparel.
Ultimately, a product which is ranked as super sustainable product. It is normally 20% more than the conventional polyester fabric based garments.
So people who believe in this recycling, we give them the traceability information from garment to the waste bottle that is being picked up. So any consumer who buys our garment, there is a QR code which he can scan and he will know from where the waste was collected for his particular garment.
In India, the textile industry accounts for nearly 5% of the country's GDP. Fortunately, the sustainable fashion market in the country is set to grow at 11% and reach $10 billion by 2025.
Customers are willing to pay more because there is a cost associated with that. And we are all seeing the effect of climate change. So there is a good reception for sustainable clothing amongst customers. It's a question of reach. We need to reach to them. We need to educate them on this. And I think we'll be there.
By using just a portion of that fiber, they produce 5,000 apparel every month and have 2,300 unique customers. On the whole, Sri Ranga Polymers use no new petroleum and instead convert 1.5 million bottles every day to manufacture polyester.
In Italy, not too far from the city of Florence, is Prato, the city of textile recycling. While only a very small portion of used clothing is recycled across the globe, a decent percentage of this comes from Prato. So we took a look around to understand how is the city leading the march for sustainable fashion.
This used clothing bin could be in almost any European city. But no matter where it's located, chances are the clothing will end up in Prato, Italy, the world's textile recycling capital. Around 150 of the 7,000 textile companies here are involved in recycling. Used clothes from Germany, Austria and Switzerland end up at Salvatore Rangino's warehouse.
This is where we separate what comes in. We separate t-shirts, pants, children's clothing, sweaters and jackets according to season, winter or summer.
He resells 2/3 of the clothing, mostly to Africa. Alice Tesi, who works next door, takes the last third. Her family business has been turning used clothes into yarn and fabric for 4 generations.
Hi, how's it going?
Great.
Did you get good material?
Yeah, it's all pretty good.
Great.
Then the magic begins. In the end, the discarded scraps will become new yarn and wool. It's a complex process that starts here.
Our goal is to restore the yarn to its original colour. We separate the colours and then our machine turns the rags into a kind of fibre pulp. That way we restore the original colour without chemical dyes.
Chemical dyes are only one of the problems in today's textile industry. Worldwide, 20% of water pollution comes from dyeing and finishing fabrics. That's another reason why recycling used clothing is so important.
The material then goes to our washing plant, where it's shredded and turned back into raw material. We draw the water we use from a depth of 150 meters. We filter it and then send it directly to the treatment plant to be purified. So we also recycle the water.
Our company processes up to 25 tons of fabric per day. The final product are these fluffy fibers.
The material has been dried and now has the moisture content of the original fiber. Now it's ready to be packaged and sold or spun into yarn.
The recycling process continues in a nearby factory. The fibers are turned into yarn and then fabric. Every European buys on average 26 kilos of textiles per year. Most eventually ends up as landfill. For Alice, it's a terrible waste.
We're trying to do our small part here. Of course, if the fashion industry followed our lead, we could accomplish so much more. It's hard to believe that only 1% of all used clothing in the world is recycled, and 15% of that 1% is recycled here in Prato. Yes, our contribution here in Prato's textile district is important.
Alice's father is president of Italy's Textile Recycling Association, but he says recycled fabrics can't be the only solution.
At the moment, we can't satisfy global industrial and consumer demand with 100% recycled materials. What we have to do now is make it clear how important it is to move more and more in the direction of recycling.
That also means encouraging young designers, like students from a fashion academy who use recycled textiles from Prato for their creations. In central Prato, the Rifa startup is already selling recycled designer fashion around the world. Niccolo Cipriani's goal is to bring together artisanal methods, sustainable fashion, and the principles of a circular economy. He's convinced that quality clothing can be ethical and environmentally responsible.
We're seeing that more and more people are interested in these issues and are willing to buy less clothing but spend more on quality. It's the opposite of fast fashion, which is what we had until just a few years ago. That was all about low prices and buying new clothes more often.
People like Niccolo and Alice are showing that sustainable fashion is more than just a dream. More places like Prato, all over the world, can help make it a reality.
What do you do when you're done wearing your old shirt? You worn it far too many times, or you've run out of space in your cupboard. Well, there's a nomadic tribe in Gujarat which has long bartered utensils for old clothes. And since there's a growing culture of thrifting among young urban consumers, this could benefit both the environment and this marginalized community.
For 30 years of her life, Leela has walked the lanes of Mumbai, going door to door to collect old clothes from local residents. She belongs to the Wagri, a nomadic tribe from northern Gujarat state that has long faced social stigma and discrimination. Its members eke out a living with a reuse model that is unique to India. They exchange used clothes for brand new utensils, plastic wares or cash.
We buy the clothes for approximately 10 rupees per piece and sell them for 20 to 30 rupees after washing and ironing them. If the clothes are torn, we have to sew them before we sell them.
The Wagri sell the garments they collect at a suburban Mumbai market. It's an informal bazaar, the kind that dot the unmarked lanes of many big Indian cities. There, the clothes are bought by traders who sell them in remote villages where people often can't afford new clothing. An estimated 40 tons of clothes are shipped from a single market like this one to rural regions every month. Whatever is left behind, mostly torn and non-wearable, is sold by weight to rag merchants. Their clients include factories that turn the material into stuffings for car seats or mattresses, for instance. Communities like the Wagris could play a key role in the push toward a circular economy. That's why it's been singled out for support by the social enterprise Bombay Recycling Concern.
These people bring in more than 5 to 6 tons of clothing into a single market. If these old clothes were sent to a landfill or ended up in drainage systems, a single piece of clothing would take several years to decompose.
India generates close to 8 million tons of textile waste every year. Too often, it ends up in landfills, or worse, in the environment. It's a problem that's only likely to get worse. Worldwide, garment production has doubled in the last 15 years. And with fast fashion still encouraging throwaway consumer habits, the number of times a clothing item is worn before it's discarded has dropped over the past 2 decades by almost 40%. While the fashion industry does fuel growth and development, it's a massively resource-intensive sector.
The amount of water used in the fashion industry is an unimaginable amount of 93 billion metric cubes. And that can actually be drinking water for 5 million people in a year. So that's the amount we are using to create fashion.
Today, the global market for second-hand clothes is booming. In India, that market is still in its infancy, largely due to the cultural stigma associated with second-hand clothes. But in cities, young shoppers looking for sustainable alternatives to fast fashion have started to embrace the pre-worn trend, giving rise to a new culture of thrifting that's taking off across the country. Stores have sprung up to feed demand for second-hand and vintage clothing and accessories. Amit, a stylist and fashion designer, is a regular at this thrift store in Mumbai's Bandra neighborhood.
We're all moving towards sustainability. Sustainability is the most in thing right now in fashion. So it just makes sense to recycle stuff rather than, wasting our resources on manufacturing new stuff all the time.
Opened in 2019, Bombay Closet Cleanse allows people to walk in and sell their clothes for cash.
People who come in here into the store are not people who just can't afford clothes, new clothes. They're doing this because it's a lifestyle change that is going to increase the life cycle of these clothes.
Resale is predicted to overtake the e-commerce market in the next few years. Helping guide Indian fashion brands to the second-hand segment are facilitators like Relove, a circular tech platform built by Kirti Punia and Pratik Gupta. It helps brands to resell their products on their own websites.
If you see hashtag Thrift India on Instagram, last year in Jan it was 4 lakh posts. Right now it's 7 lakh posts. So Jan until now, that's the growth.
We've seen a huge amount of interest from people, from brands who really want to onboard onto this platform. And we've sold 80% of all the inventory that we've already got for sale. The average time to sell is just 6 to 7 days. So today I would say we're a completely supply-constrained market rather than a demand-constrained market.
Some thrift stores are trying to incorporate Wagri women into their value chain. They buy items suited to the tastes of their clientele directly from the women. And they also serve as a one-stop collection point for traditional clothing that the women can pick up to sell at their markets. This model, if scaled, could help address one of the primary challenges faced by the Wagri: the physical strain of spending more than half their day on their feet, wandering city lanes.
It would be so much more convenient if we could pick up bundles of clothes in one place. Then we wouldn't have to go door to door from one household to another if it were stored in one place where we could easily collect it.
The Wagri have struggled with poverty and public suspicion for generations. They are denied access to housing complexes where they could collect clothes and face harassment from police and authorities when they try to hold a fixed market. Steps to organize their informal trade could help India secure a share of the global second-hand market that's valued at $36 billion. And finally, bring the Wagri recognition for their valuable role as India's urban recyclers.
Giving a little more thought into what do we wear, where does it come from, and how do we discard it can help make such a huge difference and derive so much more value from the things that we buy. But you let me know what was your takeaway from today's episode. You can email us. I will see you next week. Until then, take care. Goodbye. Namaskar.